Hello, this is Helen Schaefer, bringing out the artist in you.
Hello, everyone.
It's so good to be with you today. And if you're like us, challenge time with Dina.
It's always a challenge. The challenge part is getting it done in time.
Well, that's it.
Our entry into the Growing Garden Art Challenge is a tulip in a garden setting.
And you can learn to draw the tulips. So when you draw a flower, any flower, it's really good if you look at it. As an artist, you have to really look at it, not just glance at it and enjoy it. You have to look at it.
You mean you have to study it?
That's right, that's the word. You have to study it just like as though you're in school.
And you want to embed that image in your mind.
Well, yes, and how it's put together, how the whole flower itself, or the leaves, or whatever you're planning to use in your drawing, how it's actually assembled. That's what I'm talking about. As long as you look at it, that's the important thing. You can't just draw.
You really have to look at the tulip and know what the tulip looks like in order to be able to draw it. Draw it realistically.
That's right. Well, yeah, exactly. Portions are very important, and how the flower is attached to the foliage, and all of this is an important part of the whole process.
So getting ready takes a little time. You can't just pick the flower up and start. You need to think about it, and you look at it, study it, and then once you've got that all ingrained in your mind and a picture of what you're going to actually physically paint, then you start.
Exactly. After you're fully acquainted with it, then it's time to draw.
Okay, and you started this drawing with a pencil sketch, right?
I did. And normally I don't. But this time I did.
You had a sketch kind of the garden scene that you were looking at. It was a very, very light sketch, just so you could get an idea of where you were going to put what, and then you started with the bud.
Right. Yeah, and if you do sketch with a pencil, it should be done very lightly. A number 3 or 4, H is a good pencil to use. You don't want it in darkly, because if you put the pencil line on your paper and then color on top of it with your watercolor, forget it. You cannot.
If that line is just barely visible, if it isn't just barely visible, or in other words, if it's too dark, you're saying it's going to shine right through the
it will.
Paint.
It will.
Whereas if it's extremely light, you have a good chance of the paint actually covering that, and it won't be visible.
So it's good to erase it if you're doing that, doing it that way. Right.
Erasing is a good thing.
Yep.
Okay. So, and I think if I saw this correctly, you actually did, after you had your sketch and you started the first bud, then you erased some of the lines, because by this time you kind of knew exactly where you were putting things, and so this way the lines were gone then, and you didn't have to worry about it.
That's exactly right. Remember, nature is natural. So relax and just plain let it happen when you make your strokes with the brush. The tulip is a good shape to start with because it's very familiar to us, and this will be a basic tulip. It'll be easy. So what I want you to do is to put your thumb and your index fingertips together, and be sure you leave space. Make like an oval shape so it looks like the one that I'm doing. And then take your brush and trace this shape that you've made with your thumb and index finger over and over again, so that you get that in your head. What you want to have is muscle memory. All right, now when you feel that you've
got it set in your mind,
then place your brush on your paper and just make that same shape. If you hesitate with it, go back to your finger again, to your hand, to your index finger.
Okay, so what you're trying to teach here, how to draw the shape of a tulip.
Yes.
After you get the 2 tulips started, you added foliage to get a feel for the complete garden scene.
Oh, and by the way, what I forgot to tell you, important thing is you want to use different yellows. So in your watercolors, you have a light yellow, which is transparent. You have that yellow, and then you've got a more of a cad yellow. There are about 4 different yellows. And whatever you have in your paint box, use the different yellows. Some of them, like the yellow ochre, will put some shading in for you.
So that way you get the highlights, and,
Yes.
and it creates the depth
Yes.
of the
Yes.
tulip shape, rather than just it being
Right.
a very flat
Right.
looking yellow.
Yes. You cannot do it with one color.
Yeah, otherwise you just get a blob, and
Yes.
it doesn't look like anything other than you got the
Right.
oval, but it doesn't stand out
Exactly.
from
It
paper.
looks three-dimensional.
You want it to look three-dimensional.
Three-dimensional.
That's the way you get
And the same with the
three-dimensional.
leaves. Use various greens that you have.
The way you created this painting is you started out with the one tulip, and
Tulip. Yes.
well, you started out the one tulip. That's all you had.
Right.
And in order to create sort of a garden scene, you decided you wanted where to place other tulips, utilizing the same basic tulip shape.
Right.
And so you created your garden all from in your head.
Yes.
It was in your mind
Right.
as to what this scene would look like.
Yeah.
And you put the leaves in, or I guess you call them leaves for tulips.
They are.
Accordingly, so that it would give you a realistic looking scene.
Yes. And by looking at the real tulip, the actual natural tulip that I had in the refrigerator, this is exactly how a tulip grows. It's kind of embedded like if you're in the bed and the blankets are around you. That's what you can
And
think about.
And the leaves you're saying are the blankets.
Yes.
And you kind of used one of those to get a kind of an idea of what the shape looked like, and that's how you generated.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So you can just, just fool around with it, play around with it, and it will all happen. So, are there any more points that you want to bring out?
Oh, that's probably it for today.
Yeah, and just keep them bright and happy, and you have a nice looking tulip.
We want to thank Dina Tollefson, our very talented daughter, for sponsoring the Growing Garden Art Challenge. It's been a great challenge.
And I'm so thankful that people are responding to this challenge. It's a good thing. So we'll talk to you later then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.